In Amsterdam, Amsterdam, is van alles aan de gang. Amsterdam, Amsterdam, bestaat al even lang. Hi there, I'm Timo, 24 years old, and I'd like to greet you with the lovely song of Maggie McNeil from Eurovision 1980 titled Amsterdam, which is one of my favorite Eurovision entries. But I'm actually greeting you from Freiburg in Germany. It's not to confuse with the Swiss Fribourg, and it's located in the southwest of Germany, bordering France and Switzerland. Luckily, it's quite close to this year's Eurovision venue, Basel, where we hopefully will see each other in May. Today, you'll get to know me, my connection to Eurovision, as well as my Eurovision-related academic work. As I've said, I live in Freiburg im Breisgau, and after finishing my Bachelor of Cultural Anthropology last year, I'm now studying the Master's named Ethnography and Cultural Analysis. Our subject focuses on studying day-to-day culture and has a constructivist understanding of culture. Alongside my studies, I'm working as a tutor for younger students. One highlight of my student life, which I can't leave unmentioned, was my semester abroad in Portugal's capital, Lisbon, which I enjoyed quite a lot. In my free time, I like to go for hikes, which is quite an advisable thing, having the Black Forest and Kaiserstuhl so close by. Furthermore, I really like a genre which I call cozy crime in book or film, and with that I mean detective stories by Agatha Christie with her detectives like Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot. Other than that, I'm preoccupied within the Students' Council. Other interests of mine range from watching so-called trash TV to spending time in Freiburg's lovely cafes. Not to forget about Eurovision, which is a big passion of mine. I love to sing along, as you maybe noticed, and to watch the older shows, as well as watching current national finals. My scientific interest in the Eurovision Song Contest also stems from this personal interest. If there's a need to pinpoint an all-time favorite, I choose Un jour en enfant by the lovely Frida Bocara. This French entry was one of the 4 winners in Eurovision 1996, and it was quite a controversial result as there were 4 winners, and also quite controversial as the contest was held in Franco, Spain. Interrelationships between the contest and politics have always interested me quite a bit, and I can't recall my first Eurovision memories because we didn't have a TV to watch it together, but I still know that the first Eurovision, which I followed via live stream, was 2016 when Jamala won, and her performance had both me and my mother crying as we were very touched by it. This provides quite a good transition to my academic Eurovision related work I'm going to present to you now. In my bachelor's, I already wrote a term paper concerning Eurovision and fan cultures, and I decided to stick with the topic of Eurovision for my bachelor's thesis. As I already told, I've always been quite interested in the interconnectedness of politics and Eurovision, already giving many presentations in school. I decided to regard 2 entries which one may place in the framework of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, or regarding the current warfare, Russian war against Ukraine. My choice of songs with which I like to exemplify my research was also strongly led by personal interest. I was intrigued by Jamalas' performance, which didn't resonate with my peers at the time, who described it as strange, and Manizha's song was also to my liking, and I found it quite interesting as it's the last Russian entry to date. To provide some context, Jamala won the Eurovision Song Contest 2016 for Ukraine with her entry in 1944, which addresses the interpretation of the Crimean Tatars. Manizha, on the other hand, represented Russia in 2021 with her empowering song Russian Woman, finishing 9th. One needs to add that Jamala is part of the Crimean Tatar minority in Ukraine, and Manizha is part of the Kazakh minority in Russia. I asked myself how both entries were perceived and how they were discussed. That's why I analyzed a sample of predominantly German online articles, as they were easily accessible for me. Furthermore, I looked at the performances and lyrics to decipher meanings. In addition, I looked up interviews with the two performers to get to know more about their emic perspective and self-statements. At last, I interviewed some fans, asking how they perceived and interpreted the entries. So, I combined different methods and materials to a qualitative discourse analysis. I found that the political content of the two contributions was assessed differently overall. While Jamala's song was often interpreted as too political, especially after her victory and in relation to the background of the annexation of Crimea in 2014, Manizha's colorful representation of Russia was largely well received and judged as positive. There were only a few voices that criticized this self-presentation as not reflecting the reality of life in Russia. I interpreted the self-positioning of Jamala and Manizha as an empowering act of self-ethnization against a background of discriminatory experiences. One could also argue that the two, as members of ethnic minorities, were instrumentalized to present a plural and diverse national self-image. I would like to offer you both possible interpretations, one emphasizing the protagonist's agency, the other one rather the structure. Limitations of my thesis are the focus on the German-speaking discourse and the lack of opportunity to interview the artists themselves. As I've presented to you my methods and findings, I'd now like to end on a special note. Amsterdam, Amsterdam, de stad waar alles gaan. Amsterdam, Amsterdam, iedereen die weet ervan. And with those lovely lines, I want to say goodbye to you, hoping that Basel, like Amsterdam in Maggie McNeil's song, is a city of opportunities and will be able to pull everything off just fine. See you!